both those promises. So here he is today, our dad, Edwin Edwards.
Thank you very, very much for coming. I appreciate it. I can't say that I always felt that way about press conferences, but I feel comfortable in this one, and I'm very glad to see you. If I may, I would like to introduce my new best friend, Mrs. Trina Edwards. I got to tell you because it's something in my heart. I was 83 years old and in federal prison with little prospects of any happiness in my life except for my children. And this lady, like about 3,000 other people, and I mean that sincerely, wrote me after reading the book and expressed reservations about how she had felt about me before she read the book. And in so many words said she'd like an opportunity to meet with me to explain it. I don't tell many people this, but it's a fact. She's a registered Republican. And I want you to know, later on, in due course, I arranged for her to visit me in prison. After she was there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3, as she got ready to leave, she looked at me very demurely and said in a very pleasant voice, "If you don't mind, I'd like to think about coming back." Well, I'm 83 years old, in prison and broke. And that's like throwing a life raft to some guy who's drowning and say, "Do you want it?" And of course, I welcome her back. After that day, on every visiting day, every Saturday and Sunday, every holiday, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Labor Day, every day that we had visitors, she showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning and stayed till 3. And that is something that will never leave my mind and my consciousness because it meant so much to me at the time. Now, I have had a very checkered life, and there was a time in my life when many people would have been happy to visit with me wherever I was, whatever I was doing. But this was different. I was in prison. She was free when she came. And I would like at this time to ask her to come stand with me so we can let the nation see that there are no marks on her. She entered into this marriage voluntarily. And I do not try to explain because as eloquent as I like to think I am, I couldn't explain it. You can if you wish. My first order to you after our first day's marriage is to sit down. I'm perfectly aware that everything and anything I say will be dissected and checked into, and I understand that. Therefore, I will try to be extraordinarily careful in saying what I'm going to say. First, I would like to set at rest two erroneous feelings that some people have about me. I hear from time to time, in spite of the repeated good remarks that I get from some people who have heard or who say to me that I stole from the state of Louisiana. I was governor for 16 years and presided over billions of dollars in budgetary revenue. In spite of all of the investigations I've been through and all of the efforts by prosecutors and in earlier days some members of the press to charge me, I never was investigated for stealing money from the state and never was accused of it. And take it to bed, I never was convicted of that. Whatever my problems are or were, They did not and do not and will not involve taking money from the people of this state. That's a fact. Contrary to that, in 1986, in my third term as governor, I worked out a deal with the federal government and got $600 million in a settlement against the federal government involving our oil revenues. I put $540 million of that in a constitutionally dedicated fund for education. It is the largest such fund constitutionally dedicated of any of the states of our nation. For the past 35 years, education has received $30 to $40 million a year in revenue that can be used for education. In addition to that, part of the revenue was put back into the system, and now this fund has $1.2 billion. No other governor in the history of our state has even attempted that. So far from being responsible for taking money from you, I left you with $1.2 billion. In addition to that, only one time in 16 years did I not have a balanced budget. And that was due to circumstances which arose. The other thing is, I was not charged with or convicted of selling riverboat licenses. That is not what it was about. Both chairmen of the commission, mine and Governor Foster's, testified that no such pressure was put on the commission. Two members of the commission testified, and they both testified that no effort was made by me to convince them how to vote. No such evidence developed. I know that the FBI went to every member of both commissions and tried to get them to say that I had done that without success. What I was convicted of was extortion. Friends who were used by the government to testify against me testified that I extorted them. Not one of them testified that I had done anything to help you. Quite the contrary. They said they were afraid that I would hurt them if they wouldn't pay me. They said I extorted them. That's what they said. I know different, but it came out that way. So I accept that, but it was not for selling riverboat licenses. Now, I was tried 4 times by the federal government. In the 3 trials where we had fair and impartial judges who were willing to let the evidence and the proceedings go according to the law, the federal government could not get but 1 vote out of 36. I was twice acquitted, and once I was a hung jury with 1 man asking for a verdict. When we got to Baton Rouge under the present judge, there was no chance that we could come out with a fair trial. And as a result, there was a conviction, which I have to live with, and I do. I didn't come here to criticize federal judges, or any judges. That's not a good practice, especially if you're alive. Majority of them, the vast majority, are honest, hard-working, conscientious judges. But there are exceptions, and I ran into one. And that is why I went to prison. That is my opinion. I stick with it, and that's what I say. Other thing that I want to talk about are predictions. I have been controversial, but I spoke out as I felt. The goddess Cassandra was given the gift of prophecy, but was cursed with the curse that nobody would believe her, even though her prophecies were true. And so it was with me in many cases. When in the 70s I had said that the price of oil would go to $100 a barrel, people laughed at me, thought I'd lost my mind. Well, when you go to the gas pump today, maybe you'll be reminded of what I said in the late 70s. Now, when I became governor in 1972, we were collecting 25 cents a barrel tax on oil. I saw the possibility of getting more revenue for the people of this state without doing any damage to the oil companies, and I did. They said I was going to run the oil companies out of Louisiana. I would bankrupt them. We'd never hear from them. Well, how were they going to run out and take the oil with them? It was in the ground. They had to be here to get it out. And as they extracted it, we got revenue for the people of this state. Now, recently we were getting about 65 to 70 million barrels of oil a year. It has been gradually going down in the last 10 years. Actually 4.4% decline over the years, and it's projected to decline further 1.4%. What I suggest, if I were in a position to do so, and I know I'm not, is that we look at the price of oil now with companies making billions of dollars in extra profit, while people are paying $3.50 a gallon for gasoline, and try to move in that direction to get some benefit from the production of oil and gas in Louisiana, and there is an easy way to do that. And if I had my say-so, without the people of this state having to pay a nickel more, I could extract the money that we need. It'd take about 4 years because we are $1,350 million in debt because of improper financial practices. But in 4 years' time, it could get done. I close by saying this. In 1983, again, with some vision, I looked at this country and saw that only 2 states had any kind of serious gambling, New Jersey and Nevada. A few states like Alabama and Florida had either dog races or horse racing. I said then that gambling is going to be a revenue producer for states, and we need to move in that direction. Of course, I was scoffed at and caught a lot of criticism for that. But as I had predicted, today as I stand before you, only 2 states have no form of gambling: Utah and Hawaii. There are 450 Indian casinos in this country, and practically every state now has some form of gambling, lottery, what have you. My point is, I saw an opportunity to extract revenue for the people of this state without them having to pay for it. Now, people think of me as the gambling governor. Let me tell you something. I'm responsible for only one gambling situation in Louisiana, the casino in New Orleans. Racetracks were here a long time before I was born, if you think that's possible. The lottery, riverboat gambling, and video gambling came under the term of Governor Rome, who in 1987 spent all his time talking about how horrible gambling was and how you would never allow it to happen in Louisiana. But in his administration, most of the legalized gambling came to being. We create 50,000 plus jobs in that situation and generate $600 million in tax revenue. practically everybody of any note running for anything since all that happened has always talked about how gambling was so terrible and what it was doing to the state and how he or she was going to get rid of it when they got in office. Not one of them made any serious effort to do that after they got elected. Don't blame them for that, but seriously, why don't they just say it like it is and recognize that it's something that they can't do, people don't want done, and let it go. But that's not the way some people do it, and that's, I guess, why I'm considered to be rather controversial, and they're not. Close by this saying. There's no way that I could explain to you how surprised and pleased I was by what happened to me after I went to prison. On average, I got 15 letters a day, times 5 days, 75 letters a week, times 52 weeks in a year, times 8 years, and it's about 35,000 pieces of mail. I doubt if anybody else had that happen to me. And I appreciate it very much. After the book was written, I got thousands of letters from people who changed their mind about me. Testimony to the good work of my author, Bill Honeycutt. But better than that is the reaction that I've gotten from people since I got out. I couldn't begin to tell you what it has meant to me that people are so gracious and kind and understanding. And that includes members of the press. During the trial, I was fairly treated. While in prison, I was fairly treated. After I got out, you folks have been wonderful in your treatment, and I appreciate it very much. And that is why I have resisted any effort to have select press conferences or interviews, because I felt like I owed it to you to do that at a time when we could all do it together and get behind us whatever questions we may have. So with your permission, I'll open it for questions, starting on my left. Jim?
Governor, after the trial, you made reference to the Chinese proverb about floating down the river and all that business. Are you now standing on the bank?
Absolutely. And the river's flowing full blast. And I watch them go by every day, while behind me are the cheers of people who realize what happened. Are you old enough to be a...
Governor Edwards, congratulations on your marriage. Very happy for you. Is there any truth to the rumor that that you are decorating a nursery?
Normally, we look for a school in Europe. We look for a house in a school district that we like.
Okay.
Governor, in 1991, let me take you back to 1991, you had just beaten David Duke as governor. A lot of people at the time, as you know, were saying there was a new Edwin Edwards out there, that you had reached out to business, you had reached out to, God forbid, Republicans, and got elected. And you stood at the podium at your inaugural and you told a joke. You said the old Edwin Edwards, the new Edwin Edwards, and the Tooth Fairy were having lunch. Who picked up the check? And your answer was, of course, it's the old Edwin Edwards, because the new Edwin Edwards and the Tooth Fairy, they don't exist. So if the three same people were having dinner today, who would pick up the check?
One of the other two.
Is there a new Edwin Edwards? My point is there a new Edwin Edwards after nearly a decade in prison, knowing what you know now? Is there a new Edwin Edwards?
No, the only thing I can tell you is that age, not politics, may have made a difference in my life. I like to believe I'm a little more serious, but on the other hand, I'm not going around with a sad look. Life is precious, and life is good. And I'm very pleased with my life. Now, many people don't like the way I live, they don't like the way I politic, but after all, I just didn't beat David Duke. Buddy Romer, who was the incumbent governor, was in that race, and he didn't even make the runoff. It's not as though, and there was a mayor and a member of the Public Service Commission. I have, in my first election, I beat 20 people. And in the second, I beat 5, including the son of a former governor. And in the last one, I beat Roma and a mayor and a Public Service Commission. And I've been controversial, of course, but I like the way I am. And apparently the people like it. I mean, it isn't, you know, this is Louisiana. We are good people. We are progressive people. We love each other. We take care of each other. We don't go around with a Dow expression all ourselves all the time. We take care of each other. And I'm proud of the fact that I entertain people, because while I'm doing my job, I'm also trying to make them happy, because there's reason to be happy, even in these dire times. And I'm not going to apologize for that. It's the way I am.
Governor, 2 questions. First is, what is the one thing that you really regret in your whole life in terms of your being a governor? What's the one thing you really regret? And second question is, what is your opinion of our current governor?
The one thing I regret is coming to this conference. You didn't have anywhere else to go today? Well, what can I say? I think he makes a good governor for California, Minnesota, Florida, all those places where people have been putting up all that money concerned about who the governor of Louisiana is. I don't know. I'm telling you that there are solutions to the problems of finance that we have that he is responsible for by using dedicated funds and by using funds that are non-recurring for recurring expenditures, which is a big no-no in any kind of budgetary process. And all I can tell you is the solutions to our problems are there, but you'll not find them on the way to Washington, D.C. in this state.
Your good friend and close associate John Lario is said to be perhaps possibly for Senate President, but one of the issues is because you two had such a good relationship. Thoughts, advice on Lario for Senate President?
Senate President of the Senate?
Yes.
Well, they couldn't pick a better one. There's some that are just as good, but they couldn't pick a better one. He has great experience as a legislator, served as Speaker of the House, and he may have changed parties, but he hadn't changed his way of life. He can't fool me. I know it too well. He's a good legislator, represents his people well, and has the respect of his colleagues. And if Joel does not run, I understand he can't or won't will, I'm convinced that Lario would be the best choice to get there. Go ahead.
Governor, you have a lot of friends in New Orleans. Over the last few days, since you've been in the news a bit, I've heard at least a dozen people say if he had been governor when Trina hit, we wouldn't have suffered the way we did. They said it in different ways, but that was the sum. What would you have done differently if he had been governor?
I watched in horror while I was in prison as the disaster hit. And what I would have done, 2 things. I would have told President Bush, instead of arguing with him, bring the Army in here, nationalize the National Guard so you'll pay for it, move in there with as many troops and people and equipment as you need, and bring peace. Take care of the crime, the shooting, whatever was going on. They could have done that. Other thing that I would have done, I would have said to every school bus driver north of Interstate 10, gas up your buses, come to New Orleans, and pick up a load of people. And then I would have said to every school superintendent north of Interstate 10, you clear out your gymnasiums and your cafeterias. We're going to move 100 or 200 or 300 people in each of the gyms. Your cafeterias can feed them while they're there. They will sleep on Army cots that will be provided by the Army. And gradually I would have then begun to work with the people that were in the gyms in our state, not in Houston and Atlanta and all over the country, and try to get them rehabilitated and back with their families. Now, I would have called the legislation into session, and as the dictator that our people like to think I was, I would have said, you pass this bill that gives me authority to tell these drivers and these school superintendents to keep a record of what it's costing, and I'm going to reimburse them as soon as we get the bills. That's what I would have done.
What would you say to, I guess, critics who might criticize you and the media for the coverage that we're doing, that we get the past few days, that this is too much? What would you say to somebody for that? We have heard that in the media, that this is all too much. We shouldn't be doing
too much coverage?
Too much coverage.
There's no such thing. There has been a great deal of it, and frankly, we're surprised. I'm surprised, very pleasantly surprised and pleased. But on the other hand, I hear so much from so many people who are happy about what they see that I assume that, you know, you folks may throw bouquets at yourself, but I know you're not in business to make me look good. You're in business for ratings, to sell papers. And to the extent that I can help you in that regard, I'm perfectly willing to do it.
Remember reality show.
Well, the reality people in this room now are filming this. They're going to put together a disc to demonstrate to people about in the business to see about selling it. If they can sell it, we'll do it. But I'm glad you asked the question, because there's one thing I want to say. I've never seen a reality show. But I've heard that some of them make people or the state or the area from which they come look bad. That is not going to happen. I'm not going to look bad, my wife is not going to look bad, my family will not look bad, and my state will not look bad. If they're not willing to show it as it is, even if there may be some problems, I'm not going to participate in it.
Governor, how has Louisiana changed in the years?
What's that?
How has Louisiana changed in the years that you went away, now that you're back?
When I went away, people used to use phones to call people. Now they take pictures, listen to music, watch the weather. It's changed a lot, and
for the better or for the worse?
well, let me say this. In the last 39 years, I have been governor 16 years. 5 others who followed me have been governor a total of 23 years. I hear every now and then from people who say I'm responsible for all the bad in the state. If so, those other 5 people sure as hell haven't been doing much. But they're not responsible, and I'm not responsible. We have problems like California has problems in every other state. And I did the best I could under the circumstances, and these people did and are doing the best they can. The state has changed. It's become very conservative, very Republican. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I look more at the individual more than his tag or his party registration. But it has changed. And the traffic is a lot worse, especially in the metropolitan areas. But on the whole, I found it to be the same gracious, nice place to live and to be. And I'm perfectly satisfied to be back.
Governor, what's your thoughts about the current state of the Democratic Party in this state that doesn't even have a challenger to Governor General? The second part of the question, how do you think the president is doing?
I cannot say the president is doing well. I regret that. I do not understand why Bush did not get out of Iraq when he killed Hussein. Why he stayed there and spent all those lives and all that money. I don't understand why Obama is still there. I don't understand why after they killed Osama bin Laden, they didn't come home and say we did our job. I don't understand why they think that we can be the first nation in the history of the world who can conquer Afghanistan. The terrain and the people, the attitude just make that impossible. I regret that the billions of dollars and the hundreds of lives and limbs lost and those, in my opinion, unnecessary continuing conflicts continues to haunt us. We have enough problems here, and we can do enough for our people, that we shouldn't be building schools and bridges and roads and cities for people in Afghanistan. I don't have anything against them, but they're not my responsibility. They are to the extent that I may have some ability to help them after I help our people. But we haven't reached that point yet. And if we don't do something about our debt in this nation, we're going to be in very serious trouble down the line.
Any problem with the Democratic Party right now?
What's that?
The state of the Democratic Party right now. Have you given any thoughts?
The state of the Democratic Party
Yeah.
is not Louisiana. It's some other state.
Try to change,
I'm not concerned about that. I know the people that have become Republicans since I went to prison. They're the same people that they were when they were Democrats. They changed because the attitude of people is such that it's easier to raise money as a Republican, and it's easier to avoid some of the criticism that people get as Democrats. And I understand that, but I'm a Democrat. I was born a Democrat, and in 19 or 20 years, I'm going to die as a Democrat.
Following up, last question. Are you going to try to convince your new wife to change her voter registration based on what you just said?
Oh, absolutely not. I just wanted to change her marriage registration. Anybody else?
I wish we could go on for another half an hour.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not actually doing
You want to sit over here and get some pretty pictures?
Pretty pictures?
Pretty pictures.
Oh, you better get somebody else. I apologize for my voice. I don't know what happened. I guess maybe I'll learn to shut up. So I'll shut up.
Smile, smile. There it is. There you go. This is
Thank you all.